Services. Should I reread that with the recording, Amy, or is it good?
You're okay.
Cool, thank you. All right, next slide. I'll read the under Portland City Code and state law, the Portland Utility Board is holding this meeting electronically. Board members and relevant city staff are attending remotely, electronically, or by phone, and the city has made it available for the public to listen to the audio broadcast of this meeting. The public will have an opportunity to provide comments during the public comment portion of the agenda and can also provide written testimony to the board by emailing utilityboard@portlandoregon.gov. Pub believes and acts upon anti-racist principles. In our meeting spaces and in interactions with Pub, while every person has the right to share their personal perspective, we stand against wrongful conduct, particularly any conduct that is targeted toward people that are made vulnerable by systemic inequities. This means stepping up as a community when there is wrongful conduct and fostering a space of learning and growth. All right, putting our principles into action. Be active and deliberate, speak up and speak out. Each person is empowered to maintain the culture of the Portland Utility Board and focus on the impacted individual or population. Condemn the conduct, not the person.
All right, my name is Amy Archer Masters, and I'll quickly run through the meeting guidelines. Please state your name before you speak, and if appropriate, who you're addressing or that you're addressing the group. The chat box is only viewable by the hosts, Jonna Lynn and myself, so please limit any chats to technical and logistical issues, including signing up for public comment, asking for technical assistance, or reminding us if you have been waiting to speak and have not been called on. The raise hand function is primarily used by the board during discussions. We may lower hands just to maintain the flow of conversation. During public comment period, the public can also raise their hand and you'll be called on when appropriate. If connecting by phone, you may need to press *9 to raise your hand. Videos can be turned on when speaking if desired. It is not required. Please mute your microphone when not speaking, and if connecting by phone, you may need to press *6 to mute and unmute. Public comment is taken during the comment period early in the meeting. You can sign up through chat with myself or Jonna Lynn, or raise your hand during the comment period. It is also available just prior to any formal board vote after a motion has been made and seconded by board members. The meeting is being recorded. I'll pass it back to you, Kyle.
Thank you so much, Amy. Kyle Chipman, voting member. So we're looking at the agenda up top. Really, we're hitting, after review of minutes and public comment, we have brief updates, which actually might take a bit of back and forth because there is some decision-making embedded across budget notice, but more specifically, our 2 Pub members as candidates for the Bull Run Filtration Expert Panel. After that, we're going to run 35 minutes of Pub engagement strategy, which is really emerging with clear consensus on our approach to a city council work session. We touched on some of these topics at our BES, the wastewater facility site visit last week. And also, for full transparency, Lauren, myself, Amy, and Jonna Lynn are meeting with Bureau Leadership next Tuesday. Again, it's about that kind of thinking of the next couple months ahead. What do our collective agendas look like? So in that engagement strategy section, we can also think about what questions do we collectively want to bring to Bureau Leadership and how do we want to craft the time coming up. At 4:30, there is a solid waste rate review, which is our integration into solid waste as an advisory council. And then finally, 4:50, announcements of the next pub meeting, and then we adjourn for tasty dinners or walks outside, both of which I will have. Thank you. All right, disclosure of communication. This is a moment set aside for any voting board members to disclose any communications with city leadership or bureau staff regarding items that could relate to Pub's work. Are there any items that Pub members wish to disclose? Cool. In that case, we move on to call for public comment.
Just for the record, I have not received any requests directly.
Cool. Have you received any chatbot requests on call? If not, we'll move on to the next section.
No, we haven't received any.
Beautiful. All right, then we transition directly to updates. 2 fun ones today. I take yield the floor to Jonna Lynn or Amy.
Yes, thank you. And I realized one of the updates we didn't include on here is just acknowledgement of the fact that we had a great tour at the Columbia Boulevard wastewater treatment plant. We had really good turnout, so a lot of you were there. But we will just great appreciation for staff and for the great learning that took place there. It was really great to see the changes since the last time I went, and as well as just exposure and meeting face to face with folks. So thank you. So we'll quickly run through some updates. You should have seen the budget guidance notice that we forwarded on to all of you. So I'll just kind of summarize a few of the key highlights. The guidance from the mayor came out, and so now the bureaus are receiving technical guidance as well from the budget office, and then proceeding with the development of their budget based on that. So a few key things that were mentioned is, of course, as we've discussed, the city continues to face continued financial constraints in the coming year. The guidance was kind of divided, so as it typically is, but even more clearly for what is being asked related to general fund bureaus versus other funds. And the utilities fall into that other fund category. As we've discussed, a lot of council's focus ends up on the general fund where there's much more discretionary decision making for them, but the guidance for those two were are distinct in the guidance. So all the service areas and programs are preparing and prioritizing scenarios aligned with the guidance. So general fund has their set, and the utilities and other funds do as well. And I'll highlight what those are on the next slide. So I'll come back to that piece. They've considered these scenarios in a way so that it is not across the board cuts necessarily, or changes that are being decided, like 3% for everybody or 5% for everybody, but instead that they'll be able to weigh trade-offs and discuss what those are and make decisions based on the individual service areas and the proposals that are before them. There'll be leadership briefings, so at the service area level, discussing with the mayor, city administrator, chief financial officer. So the bureaus will be, or service areas will be submitting information for them to discuss it at the executive level in January, and then an initial report summarizing the different scenarios and trade-offs will be released for the public in February. So we don't have specific dates yet, but that's the general timeline. Around community engagement, the engagement officer is developing the engagement plan, so there wasn't really much specific in there, but there was reference to expecting some input in response to the public report in February, and interest in kind of defining what the engagement looks like throughout. Otherwise, the release of the mayor's proposed is still anticipated a little bit later in spring. There was just a very brief reference to equity consideration, which I wanted to flag just because it's an area that PUB has been focused on as well. It was described as having the participation of an existing budget equity work group. I do not have details of what that means. I know that in the last year, the director of the Office of Equity and Human Rights was engaged in doing some equity reviews, and they were, were convening some folks about developing a tool for the subsequent year. So I don't have specifics. It may come out in the more specific technical guidance that bureaus get, but I'll keep you posted if we learn more. And then, of course, deliberations will continue after that. So when the technical stuff comes out, we'll get more details specific to timeline and dates and rate hearing and all of that kind of stuff. So we'll have more information about that. Let's see, was there anything else? So the specifics of the for non-general fund bureaus are highlighted on the slide here. The details are in the in the memo itself, and then we'll learn more as we hear from the utility bureaus as they do their work to prepare to submit. So there were three different scenarios that are requested. One is the status quo services. So what would it cost next year to maintain the current levels of service, and how do your projections align with that? So do your revenues project enough revenue to maintain status quo services, or is there a gap? Scenario two is that analysis of whether there's a gap and what reductions or trade-offs need to be considered in order to either reduce service levels or make sure that the revenues and expense side are aligning. And then scenario three is, which would apply to the utilities, is providing a scenario for what reductions would be made if you had to reduce all of the planned rates by 5% in each year of the forecast. So looking at a 5-year forecast and what that would look like moving forward. So those are the scenarios that are proposed in the guidance. And so bureaus will be working on what they will have available to provide in response to that. And I expect potentially at the next December meeting, certainly by January, that we'll begin to learn some of the foundations of how they're approaching it and what they're thinking. I think the first scenario is a real positive, because I think the challenge that PUB has had in prior years is, even in advocating for not taking an additional 5% cut, there wasn't the opportunity to really understand what a realistic financial forecast would look like, based on all the other changes that have been made since the prior financial forecast. So there's a lot more information to come, a lot more foundation to provide. But if there's any general questions about the guidance now, let's take those quickly, and then we can spend more time just talking about the filtration panel request. I'm not seeing any hands jump up, but we can come back if we need to. So just let me know. Kyle, go ahead.
So yeah, Kyle Chipman, voting member. This is brief, and feel free to answer in a very brief way. Do you, it said that we'd have a challenging forecast mid-December. If it's challenging, does that put all bureaus are the bureaus that we are connected to, does that put them in like kind of a mad scramble? We got to really figure stuff out where, actually, no, I withdraw my question. Please continue, Amy. Thank you.
Okay. The picture does evolve over time. I'll just say that. And the bureaus, our utility bureaus, are impacted by the bureaus who provide internal services to the city that get a lot of their funding from general fund and from other fund sources like technology and HR and those service areas that were also expected to reduce by 20%. So there are some domino effects of, as others become constrained, then there's those impacts that are necessarily going to impact them as well.
Thank you. I'll take 30 seconds and just say why I even asked that question. As we plan for the next 2 months, 2-month window roughly on how we approach it, if those plans get severely uprooted mid-December, because all bureaus and all city agencies, like cortisol levels, fight or flight, we're in risk mode, and now we have to reconfigure as they're just trying to address some significant shortfalls or some significant challenges. But that's like hypothetical on top of hypotheticals. That's why I was like, well, thank you for the time. I yield. Thank you.
Okay, so we forwarded a memo that we received from the Water Bureau that was seeking some potential PUB volunteers to participate with the Bureau leadership on the Bull Run filtration expert panel. So let's see. It would be comprised of 3 national experts and 2 pub members is what was proposed, with the goal of providing guidance during the project's critical 2026 construction year to strengthen their technical execution, enhance accountability, and provide lasting community benefits. And there were some specific stated goals in that document to make sure that community benefits are maximized, et cetera. And so what you have on the screen, and I have another slide that has the specific calendar as well, is a little bit about what the participation would mean. So the ideal is having 2 pub members identified as delegates to the panel and would attend 4 2-hour in-person sessions downtown in Portland in January, March, June, and September. Be able to review information in advance, also ask questions during those meetings, gather information, share pub's perspective, and then also provide a feedback loop back to the full pub. So that would be an important piece as well. And these are the specific sessions that were proposed and what the general topics were. So I know that we've had some updates regarding filtration plant and just wanted to open the floor for you all to see if there is interest. I know we don't have full membership here today, so we can also connect with those who are not able to be present, but just want to get a read from you all on interest level, and you can, if there is clear interest, you can also take a vote to delegate folks. And we do also, I believe Director Light is in the room, or somebody else who might be able, yeah, Director Light is in the room, in case there's any specific questions about the panel. Brooke?
Thanks, Amy. Hi, Brooke Burhanu, voting member. I had a couple of maybe background or clarifying questions, just to help give some context. The first one was kind of, I was interested in understanding kind of more of like the motivations and conception of this panel, kind of how it came to be, and if it was like developed as an internal idea or requested from an external party. And then my second question is just more wondering if we can get more information on the other expert panelists that will be non-pub members.
Risha Light, Interim Director of the Portland Water Bureau. Hello, everyone. So first question is, boy, I'm telling you, it's been a day. My brain just completely went blank on me. Sorry about that. It's been a busy day.
Oh, no problem. I was just trying to get like more background info on kind of how this panel came to be, and impetus, that's the word I was looking for. Yeah.
Some of this, I would say, was the former commission actually said, look, get a third-party oversight review, technical review committee in place for this project. And that was supposed to be done by the commissioner at that time. It didn't happen, but we are now wanting that internally even more, because we'd like to have third-party overview of the project, just to say, look at everything. Have we really considered all the things? Is there something that we might have missed that could help us better manage this project, better manage costs? Because we have experts who are more of an expert in large or mega projects than we have internally. So we're really trying to tap into that, some expertise from different from different expertise from across the construction field. So the person who's our main lead, Craig, he has dealt with mega projects throughout his career. Others are folks who have varying degrees of experience with understanding change orders and claims and things of this nature. So we're trying to bring together, and then we just want that community view, or the pub's view, and being able to say, look, Are there questions that we're not asking? We want people who can look at this and ask the questions that we may get from community, because at the end of the day, what this panel for us is about is building trust, right? We want to build that trust that we have thought about. We have looked at every angle of this. And that's really the panel is going to kind of go back and look through everything that we've done and say, hey, here's some opportunities. Or, yeah, we think you kind of are doing this the best you can, because we acknowledge it's an expensive project. This is something that is going to be costly to our community. And if there is an opportunity for us to do it better, we want to do it better. If there's an opportunity for us to do some things at a lower cost, we want to identify what those things are. And so we're bringing in a group of folks to give that a second set of eyes on everything. Does that help a bit?
It does. I guess just for context, I have a civil engineering background, and I immediately recognized these firms as really big engineering firms, and I was really so that kind of gave me some insight as to like the scope of what would be reviewed, but I was just hoping to get more clarification. And I'll maybe I know it's probably too late in the process. I'll maybe caution that like it's going to be a very engineering heavy perspective coming from this panel, just given the makeup. So there might be, if there's interest from pub members for a diversity of lenses, maybe try to promote that a bit.
Yeah, no, and that's the main reason why. I mean, we know we have the engineers, they're going to do the thing that they're going to do, but we would like to have some community eyes on this. And we honestly thought the pub would be, because members of the pub would be a good, I don't want to say substitute for the community, but you have some grounding in the work that we do. And if we try to really bring in community members, we'd have to kind of bring them up to speed on some aspects of this that we just don't have the time to do. And then I felt it would also answer some of the things that, you know, what we've heard from you all, that you want to be more involved and understand and have more influence over these things. And so we thought this is a great opportunity. So
yeah, I appreciate you answering those questions. Thanks.
Kyle Chipman, voting member. Amy, are you looking for like people to nominate or candidates to be raised on this call, like in this moment?
If there are people who have interest, yes, it would be great to identify them. Their first planned meeting, as you can see, is a meeting in January. And so, you know, just recognizing that pub, you know, has several weeks in between meetings, that you really need to finalize if you're allocating some designees, certainly by the next meeting, if it's not clear who is interested in participating at this one.
Thank you for clarifying. I'm personally interested, both from just my professional role, which is like project and program management and making. I don't work in mega projects. It's more our nature of our work is like short form volume, but that piece more directly with outbound communication strategies to deliver kind of complex information in digestible ways to the public. That's really my point of interest. But I also, as co-chair, I want to like give the floor to others. I don't want to gobble up opportunities. So, but my interest is there. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Lauren, go ahead.
Thanks, Lauren Rosencrans, voting member. I feel the same way. This is super interesting to me as somebody who has built their career around water quality, but I feel the same way as Kyle. I worry for me personally about time commitments with adding co-chair, so I don't know if there's some room to share that load among other pub members if there isn't other interests. But then I also feel the same as what Kyle said, is wanting to provide space for especially some of the newer members to get involved with something like this if they were interested, of course.
Thanks, Lauren. Alexis, and then Kyle.
Hi, everyone. Alexis, voting member. I just want to say, like, thank you for bringing this opportunity to us, Director Light. I think that this is, yes, exactly what we've been asking for, and is a really good opportunity for Pub to be able to engage in this and like dive deep into something, which I think many of us have been feeling kind of like a need and a desire to do. I have one kind of weird logistical question when I look at this session, the session one in the schedule, when it says just Pub and then February, is that just meaning that we would dedicate some time on our regularly scheduled Pub meeting to discuss, to kind of get that like feedback loop that we were talking about, or am I misunderstanding what that looks like?
What we would propose is the panel, because after they meet, that we could have them come and present at the Pub, provide and keep you updated. So it's not just the Pub member that's responsible for the updates. We could offer to have the panel actually come to Pub if you want it. And it doesn't have to be after each of these sessions, but that's what is in the structure right now. So
Great.
that would be feedback from you all as to what you would want.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's super helpful. And then I was going to say, since we're missing some of our Pub members, I do wonder if maybe Amy or Jonalyn, if this is even something that we could do like a poll or a Google form or something to see like who might be interested, and then we can go from there. I'm potentially interested I need little worried about schedule of these. I know I have a conflict for at least one of those dates. But I think it would be good for us to kind of do a poll of our full Pub members to see who might be interested and able to attend. But thank you again for bringing this to us. I think it's a really good opportunity that we should take advantage of.
This is Lauren Rosencrans. I just wanted to echo that. I, mentioned my personal interest, but I did neglect to say exactly what Alexis said. That's agreed 100% what we've been asking for. So really appreciate the opportunity.
Great. Then we will, as far as next steps, we will get something out to the full Pub just to make sure that we hear from everybody on personal interest, and then we can work out the logistics. And if we need to come back at the future meeting, we will do so. But otherwise, I'm hearing general support for the concept. And so once the volunteers are identified, then you can kind of finalize who the point people will be. All right.
All right. With that said, are there any further updates, Amy, to share or announcements?
I think that was the end. So I think I changed the share, so I need to get back to.
Beautiful. All right. A half hour. I'm going to send Jonalyn a link, and I'll be sharing my screen. But if you want to jump in this link with me for board members, yeah, feel free. It's an open editable link. And again, this is just that Miro board I've been maintaining for the past 2 years. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and just give a quick overview of what we'll be doing today. Go. Cool. So again, this is really for us to visualize and build consensus around an anticipated council work session, whether that is focused on the transportation and infrastructure committee, or if there's some other strategy we want to take, how we can understand where people live and what relationships may exist with existing council members, give us some time and space to ideate and start thinking about small little work teams or small project groups. And then finally, again, I loaded in an approximate timeline 2 weeks ago, last session, but we can also scout out if we're looking for a council work session, when that might occur and how we can structure our time between it. Cool, I see people, how exciting. Yeah, jump in with me. It's more fun, but also I'll be driving so that those on their phones, or for the sake of the, for the sake of the recording. All right, so I brought everyone to me. I'm gonna go ahead and zoom in just to this frame. Now feel free to click away, and in the upper.
Sorry,
Oh, yeah.
You have a hand up.
Oh yeah, Lorraine.
Hi, sorry for my late entrance. It popped up and I got involved in something. But Kyle, as you move forward with this, I just want to, and either Jonalyn or someone else could correct me, but one of the requirements for being a pub member is not only if you live in Portland. I just need to remind you that as if you live, worship, work, play in Portland, you are qualified to be a pub member. So I just wanted to highlight that as you move forward in talking about developing interest with commissioners who you live in your area. So and I can be corrected if need be.
Right, you're correct. And I think the intent is not just to reflect where people live, but somebody, for example, who's very engaged in East Portland, but they may live, in another part of the city. We would want to identify if there's potential for relationship there, just based on the demographics or the types of issues that certain council members are interested in. So it's not just about where you live, but where you live is one factor to take into consideration.
Wonderful. And I just suggest that we use the proper language because it may intimidate some people.
Beautiful. Thank you, Lorraine. Just so that I'm clear too, what inhabit, or what is the best, where people worship, play, where you call home, or yes.
I think what they have used, and I don't know because the advisory board enhancement project maybe is proposing some change to the language. I need to go back to the report that just came out. But in the past, it's been live, work, play, or do business.
Oh, cool. Okay, thank you so much. I might have even leapfrogged. Is anyone uncomfortable with this exercise? We can just move right into ideation if we don't want to actually reveal our districts or pursue this stretch of the exercise. I'm fine not skipping past this. Or is everybody cool? Everybody feel all right? Sweet, let's go for it. All right, feel free, if you are on the board, you can navigate right up here to the upper left. Each of us has a little square with our name. If you want to go ahead, you can find your square. Oops, sorry, refreshing. You can find your square in that upper left corner and go ahead and you can drag it into the district where you work, live, play, worship, where you call home. Sorry, give me just one sec. Beautiful. Oh, names. Yeah, this is the fun part where we actually get to pull and stretch. All right, cool. As people are working through their names as well, I saw Amy in the communication. It was flagged that potentially the transportation and infrastructure subcommittee, that might be the best fit for the working session.
Yes.
Is there more context to provide for that, or why might that be a good fit? Or
the transportation and infrastructure is just kind of the policy committee. That's the designated policy committee for the utilities, public works service area stuff so far. That's what you engaged with last year during budget cycle. I mean, both with the transportation and infrastructure, and then it also went to finance since it was budget related, and then full council. But I think more formal decisions around that may be forthcoming now that the final report on advisory body and enhancement project is coming out. That goes to council next week. And so we'll hear a little bit more from council, and then also in the future as they develop the implementation of some of those recommendations that may evolve. They're still working out some of the policies and procedures about engagement with council. So as we learn more, we'll come back around to that.
Thank you, Amy. Joanne, you have your hand raised?
Hi, Kyle. Thanks so much. I saw you had a box for me there, which I really appreciate. Thank you. Since I am a city staff participating in this committee as part of my board role, I don't know that it's appropriate for me to be developing relationships with specific counselors. But I appreciate you thinking of me.
Oh, totally. Yeah, you were on the roster, but no, totally heard, and thank you for clarifying for the record. I've removed your
Yeah.
name. Cool. For those who can't jump in, Jenny, are you comfortable with listing your district? Do you want to omit this one?
Yeah, I'm fine. I just can't figure out how to
Oh,
grab it. Yeah,
I can drag you forward. Or
okay.
drag you forward.
I'm in number 4.
Awesome. Thank you. And then we also have Lauren and Lorraine. Do you want to omit your districts, or do you want to mention which districts you're in?
I'm in 3.
3. Beautiful. And then Lorraine, do you want to omit your work, live, play, worship, or do you prefer to omit?
Me at large.
Beautiful. I love it. A soul of the city. Thank you so much, Lorraine. Cool. Well, the interesting part is we're looking at District 2 does not have any commissioners on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. 2 from 4, 2 from 3, 1 from District 1. I guess an open question for the entire board then is this sufficient? Does anybody have any existing relationships with these folks? I don't personally, and we can just start initiating the relationships when we actually have the working session. I take it by the silence that everyone's like in the same boat, like no official relationships. I think this is still helpful as we think about later positioning and kind of messaging, if we can think about how we might be able to use this in time. So cool. I think this was a good start. I'd love to take us over. I'm going to go ahead and bring everyone to me. Sweet. We're going to actually go into like the guts of this this working session, which is really thinking about ideation and then maybe some clustering and thinking about some small breakout groups. This is really intended to bring us some focal points into what are our objectives, what do we want to hit. If you're in the board, again, feel free to click away and start to kind of navigate yourself. There's a sticky pad right here on the left. You can go ahead and grab that. You can drop a sticky onto the board, and you can just list out, like one that I know is, which we talked about at that BES session. It's just deferred maintenance and unified asset management. Like that's still, whether or not we bring it up at city council, like that's a big one for me. Feel free to raise your hand if you have like a point you want to raise, something that you wanted to holler out. Or what are some other objectives? And also in the upper left, if you're in the board, I did pull through priorities from our work plan, as well as some bullet points from our most recent leadership meeting as like, thoughts to spark ideas. Yeah, one water, absolutely. I think that's a really critical one. Totally agree.
Where's the natural resource service area? I can't see it.
Totally. I'll go ahead and drop it in.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Another one that jumps out to me is whether or not this is directly addressed at City Council. It's clarity of communication and decision making in new city government structure. Well, we're just going to give just 3 more minutes for this. So yeah, feel free to keep looking at those bullet points, dropping in notes if you wanted to, stickies. Go ahead and zoom in just a bit.
This is Alexis. Just like in thinking about what we're doing here, and reading into the board a little bit, but thinking about kind of like subcommittees, like I think it's really critical that we do. So I'm putting in something that's like maybe obvious, which is this one about affordability programs, because I'm not sure how we can talk about like this is just part of the budget question, right? And kind of and those efforts when we're thinking about deferred maintenance and trade-offs and affordability programs about kind of like balancing these things. And so I'm guessing that that's kind of like what we're getting at here is about how we're organizing our work. But there's a big bucket here under affordability that is linked to many of these other kind of post-its that are floating up here.
100% agreed. Yeah, I think, and even coming off of, I think once again, it was Prashad, like it's communicating what affordability means and all of those kind of multitude implications. But I think, yeah, clustering all of those together and then getting like small little working groups or what kind of messaging to bring to the larger pub as we work towards, fully agreed, Alexis. Another one that jumps out, both One Water, this kind of city government, and I'd almost say natural resource service area, these kind of feel like they're clustered around like the implications of organizational structure. Does that feel like consistent with other people's thinking?
Yes, I mean, to me, that's how Cormac works. Sorry, voting member. It's how things get done to some degree: structure, organization, process, etc.
Cool. Brooke, you have your hand raised.
Yes, thanks, Brooke Brahano, voting member. I guess I interpreted the focus on One Water more on the kind of, I mean, it certainly is related to the organizational structure of the city. I guess when I first read it, I just kind of took it as like the focus on this particular strategy, this particular kind of initiative that's been kind of high profile and of high interest, which I'm glad it's on there. But I did get just a clarifying question. So these sticky notes are meant to represent like intended outcomes from a working session, or
close to it. The thinking is like, well, probably the goal here is that we drop the thoughts on, kind of cluster them, and then we can have like I once again kind of added people's names up here. It's like, oh, okay, I want to focus on this. This is really important to me. So like if Brooke, if you're there, it's like, all right, we've got One Water is its own beast. Brooke and just to throw a name out, Brooke and Lauren are going to really focus on that for the next like month and a half. I definitely still want to focus on this. So like I want to start to pull into that affordability, deferred maintenance, the incurred long-term cost, is that we're kind of getting our focal points, small organizing units, and then can return early January and then or early to mid-January and like say, hey, here's what we all thought independently. How do we want to approach this to present to City Council? So that's what the intent of this section is. Do you think then by that virtue, would One Water be its own, that feels like its own dominant point of focus?
I mean, that's how I initially interpreted it, but you know, I'm only one perspective, so I don't want to crowd it out of being grouped into other ideas if it makes sense, if it naturally makes sense to group them together. Sorry.
Can I just respond really quickly before you
Please.
share your next thought? Sorry, but I'm jumping, I'm not raising my hand. I'm not following protocol. But I would say that, like, I think the One Water piece has two components here to it. One side of it, and I wrote this sticky note. So what I was thinking is about engaging with the bureaus about like, what does this mean? What does this look like in the city? What it providing insight as is helpful around how it's going to be implemented, how it's going to be organized, et cetera, like that within the bureaus. And then then I hear your other part, Kyle, about how that kind of like connects with city organization as a whole. But I think it's up for, conversation with the pub, obviously, but my thinking here was really about more of like that engagement and advising on this as it rolls out with the bureaus, if that's helpful to them, which I think is like another layer that we should consider here.
Kyle Chipman, voting member, I totally agree. And it's even coming off of the most recent, like the nominations that came through, like trying to find a director, how that displaces that One Water is its own beast. And then this, I also don't want to leapfrog for Jenny, you listed Natural Resource Service Area and you have your hand raised. Do you want to speak to this point?
Specifically with regard to Natural Resource Service Area, I don't, at this point, I can't speak to it with authority because I am just aware of what was going on when Bob was there, and that he was really working on that. And there were several of us in the community that were kind of watching what he was doing. So my feeling was to kind of pick back up on that. And if this sounds like I don't really know what I'm talking about, yeah, I don't have details. I've heard that several people on the pub are interested in that. And definitely in terms of watershed and, the rivers and how the natural resources are incorporated into or are buffered. Anyway, I'm going on about that. So, but I do know, and I've been told that other people are interested in that area, and I can get more information as we go along. I really wasn't prepared to speak to that. The other thing is with regard to the One Water, and was it, oh gosh, Alexis, I can't remember. Anyway, I agree with what you're saying about One Water. My impression is this point is that, and Keisha and Ting, you can, correct me or clarify that it really is sort of still in the strategy planning, in that state, in that development state. So I guess I'm wondering, okay, where do we start? And, how could we help with this other than just having an interest in what it is and how it's, how is it going to be implemented? What is the strategy? So I just have questions regarding that. Okay, that's about all I have to say right now.
Thank you, Jenny. I don't know if it's just like a good fit to have Director Leiter Liu respond, or we kind of wrap up this exercise. Please go ahead, Amy.
This is Amy. Sorry, I don't think I can't seem to find a tool that allows me to raise hands since because I'm the host, so I apologize. The one piece that I just want to clarify, and going back to Brooke's original question of the goal of outcomes, some of the things that are on here, I think, are areas where you want to have input. And so you may have limited information, as Jenny indicated, because things are still under development. For example, the natural resources service area stuff, because the planning is still, coming in the future about that. And so what may be captured here is simply that it's an area of interest. And so what you would want to think through is just what your talking points or key highlights would be around what outcomes you're hoping to achieve through your pub's engagement in that. Either some priorities for the city to consider or advocacy for pub to be engaged in some way with the planning and review of decisions, that kind of thing. So be thinking about the types of things you would want to make sure you communicate clearly to council so that they can then react to or integrate into future planning.
Thank you so much, Amy. That really helps. It feels like, and I dropped in this clarity of communication and decision making in new city gov structure. It's the same type of question I asked at BES. I'm gonna like drop it pretty far down because whatever, that's not like a work group. That's just if we even want to mention it, fine. But it feels like we have three dominant areas, which is one water, natural resource, and then this large cluster of affordability and the impact on community. So do folks, again, if you're in the board, if you want to find your name up top, if you want to pull your name towards a cluster that feels good or that you want to like have become focal, and again, if you can't find it or if you're on your phone, I'm happy to go ahead and follow up afterwards. So feel free to take a minute and find your name and drag it. And also if you want to copy it and say, I'm interested in multiple spots, awesome. We will run into logistics around how many people can meet. 2 people, it's a lot less of an administrative lift for Amy and John Lynn. But if it's, if it feels like dominant to make more, then make more. Beautiful. I'm happy, Lorraine, is there any, across one water, natural resource, or this kind of nature of affordability and impact on community, is there one area that you feel like is really pulling your focus?
Put me in the big circle.
Big circle, you got it. Thank you. Awesome.
And also one water.
Beautiful. Thank you, Lorraine.
Mm-hmm.
And then Lauren, anything that you got, or I know that you also might be kind of out of pocket for the holidays, busy.
I'm having to refresh my screen, but I'm kind of with Lorraine, a big circle.
Cool. All right. And then Jenny, do you want to drop yourself that natural resource in one water?
Yeah, but I'm also interested in deferred maintenance.
Yeah.
Yeah, the big circle, and we'll kind of see how it pans out.
Okay. We've got timeline, but I feel like it's probably more Kyle Chipman, voting member. It feels like it's more helpful to maybe have a brief open air discussion with John Lynn and Amy around your instincts. Oh, Brooke, I'm so sorry. You have your hand raised.
Oh, no worries. I just raised it. I think to me the big circle seems a bit going in a little bit of different directions. It might help to maybe like I put the 2 I tend to be verbose, so I put the 2 longer sticky notes in there. Those were more of for like to gain a better understanding, almost as background or like historical information, as opposed to I guess like specific things that we would want to provide input on. So that those might be better to separate those.
Gotcha. I'm with it.
And then the deferred maintenance, I definitely don't want to, like, I definitely see, I mean, I see them all as all connected, but it seems like a slightly different scope of topic than affordability and equity strategies specifically. But that's just my perspective. We don't necessarily need to change it. I'm just curious if others have similar thoughts or different thoughts.
I think that makes sense to me. Kyle Chipman, voting member. Does that Brooke's layout, does that feel good for others? You can give like a thumbs up in Zoom, or you can take yourself off mute and just say, yeah, this actually feels better. I agree. It's more focused this way too.
I agree.
Beautiful. Thank you, Brooke. That's awesome.
Yeah, same. This is Lauren. And I'm just kind of putting my name in everything. I don't, I know it's not helpful, but I can kind of go anywhere.
Okay. I definitely am going to I want to stay focused on that deferred maintenance and unified asset management piece. Do we want to, for the folks who were in the big circle, do you want to move your names out or refocus now that we've separated these 3? Alexis, your hand raised.
Yeah, I have a process inquiry because I'm also like, I could just very easily put my name into all of these. And I know what we're trying to do here in terms of kind of narrowing and focusing some of our efforts so that we can dive deeper and then kind of bring that back, right, to the pub. And so I don't know if I have like a suggestion here, but thinking about if we constrain ourselves to work on, to focus and dig deep on one issue, but then make a commitment or have a plan and a structure. So this is a question for co-chairs and for our staff on how then we're bringing those issues back to the pub in a way that we can remain engaged and informed enough to be able to provide additional insight and raise questions and review and things like that. I also am like cognizant that we're a volunteer board.
Right.
And so want to make sure that we're setting ourselves kind of up for success here. But I mean, I could very easily add my name to like every single one of these circles because they're areas that I care about. And so I'm wondering about what our kind of what the process is for moving forward with kind of subcommittees and then bringing that back to the full board so that we can continue to engage on these issues.
I'll give a quick functional response and then yield to either Amy or John Lynn. And also for a time check, we're almost at time to move on to the solid waste rate review. 2 or fewer people does not require an administrative lift. They can meet independently and then bring conversations and discussions back to the board. 3 or more people, that requires a formal subcommittee, which is a lift on John Lynn and Amy's side to provide public announcements and kind of minutes tracking and record keeping. So if we can hit 2 people per focus, that's kind of ideal. We just get like just small, nimble conversations. And I see it playing out over the course. It's probably too tight with holidays to target the first week of January. But if we get our second January meeting, we can kind of all come back, share what we've discussed, and then see if it aligns with talking points and objectives for a late January, early February city council work session. That's functionally how it could play out. Amy or John Lynn, do you have additional thoughts?
This is Amy. Yeah, Kylie, you hit it on the head just as far as coordination. So we just have to be cautious about not too large of a group convening without ensuring that there was public access to that and notice. So if you as individuals are drafting something and it's going to go to the full pub meeting, that's okay. But once more of you are gathering, then it shifts. So even having multiple names interested is okay, because my guess is actually convening at least a couple of those people over the course of a few weeks might be challenging. And so we could also just note which ones are where you're kind of there because you're interested, but also fine reviewing once it comes to the full pub. Because whatever is going to be the recommended kind of focus or talking points or details is going to have to be shared with the full pub for further discussion. So,
thank you, Amy.
Yeah.
I think with that in mind, we'll definitely, both Myra and Lorraine will grab your comments and thoughts next. I think then we'll only take 4 more minutes. So we chew into 5 minutes of solid waste and then that's it. I think we focus on 2 names per that are bolded that are meeting then we still have points of interest for each of these clusters. And I think then we'll be good. Myra, do you want to take the floor?
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I'm driving home from shift. Is it okay if you put me under affordability in the One Water circle?
Definitely.
That's all.
Thank you, Myra. Lorraine, you have the floor.
Thanks, Kyle. So just so that we are also focusing on substance, the purpose of these groupings, because I am acutely aware that we are into budget season. And as you all know, I think, well, most of you weren't here. That's the time of the year when when things are moving like fast and furious. And we are getting information sometime after the fact or into the fact or whatever. So going after substance, as we meet in these groups, looking into these interest areas with that context of budget season, could someone clarify for me what it is we'll be doing in these groups?
This
My
is
gut
Amy.
is, oh, go ahead. Amy.
Yeah, Kyle, you lead it.
Oh yeah, my gut is that I don't think it's feasible to prepare for a work session in the context of our current hub meetings. That about 2/3 of them are taken largely by presentations and discussion. That leaves about 20 minutes, and we can kind of hammer out maybe one point of discussion and review, but we can't become multi-focused in preparation for a work session. So in my eyes, it's like, do your best. If you can hit 2 people, little small teams, if you can do it, awesome. If it's like, this is too much, at least we have clarity to say, look, we tried to raise a point. We don't even know where to start with this, or we take that through leadership. It's just trying to decentralize and then bring us back together. That's where my head's at. Amy, what are your thoughts?
Yes, I think you're right on, Kyle. And Lorraine, because you've been on the board longer, I would say, but part of what this group would be doing, especially with as many new folks, is kind of learning a little bit more about these particular areas based on information that we as staff can help convene for you, or I can even provide past talking points of the board, areas that have been a focus that you may want to highlight and reemphasize. And so part of it is basically coming up with those core talking points. What is it that you're either advocating for or wanting to educate the council about? So, yeah. And just while I have the floor, I did want to mention that Director Liu had mentioned in the background that one area, particularly for the One Water implementation and strategy group, that an area where they could see PUB really bringing a community perspective related to One Water is from a resiliency and equity lens in the future. So there's a lot of connection between a lot of these, but in my experience, every time we develop PUB's presentation or talking points with council, there's a lot of overlap and it flows from one thing into another because it's all interconnected. So that will happen naturally once we as staff and as a full board kind of combine it all into one full product, but just making sure that we have the right priorities and some key language. So folks who are strong with the content areas can help with drafting what it is that they want to say, so that we can make sure that that's part of it.
May I make one suggestion as we move forward? Because we have received the mayor's guidance, right? Budget guidance. So that is going to drive a lot of what happens going forward. And is it a 5% cut? I scanned through it. I have to read it completely. So may I suggest that we move forward in these, as we look at these areas, take into consideration very strongly the mayor's guidance and apply that to some of the questions we may have and some of the concerns we may have on all of these areas. Because that's what when I say I'm looking for substance, because I'm trying to sit here and figure out, okay, what I'm going to be meeting with each other about as we look into these areas and whatever, because it's a budget that drives all of these things. And as I said, we're going into budget. So for us to provide that kind of informed consent, and I think this is a good opportunity for the new board members to learn fast because it's a fire hose, is to take the mayor's guidance into consideration into what is right now, what is being proposed with the 5% or the whatever percent, and see and form your questions around those and also your concerns, and propose some solutions or some suggestions about, hey, based on what we know and whatever, we can here are the things that we think can work in that environment. So I just wanted to share that.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Lorraine. Thank you so much, Amy. And register. All right, we're 8 minutes over. I would like to just blast through and maybe get 2 people per focus. Again, do your best. If it's too much, don't stress. We just have our regular meetings. Beginning with deferred maintenance and unified asset management. It's myself, Lauren, Brooke, and Cormac. I'd love to be on this one personally. Who would feel strongly about joining me on this topic? Brooke, awesome. Thank you so much. And tell you what, while we're at it, I'm going to go ahead and just drop my name over onto city budget. They kind of relate, but I'll be with you because you're the only one over here. So we can kind of work on these 2 simultaneously. Next up, we have affordability and DEI. We have Jenny, Myra, Alexis, Lorraine, and Lauren. Who feels strongly about stepping into those topics?
Sorry, Kyle, I think I don't quite understand why we're bolding names.
Oh, it's just if we're just looking for 2 people per focus, then it's just form a little breakout group and see what we could drum up to bring back to the board in earlier mid-January. So it just that these were listed, what topics we might want to present to City Council.
Hey, Kyle, can I make a correction?
For sure.
Take me off of affordability and bring me over to One Water, please. This is Jenny.
You got it.
Thank you.
Cool. So let's go ahead and focus there. For One Water, I'm guessing, Jenny, you'd like to kind of take a focal point on that effort?
I would, yeah.
Beautiful. Who would like to join Jenny on diving into One Water?
I will.
Beautiful. Thank you, Lorraine. Lorraine and Jenny. All right. In that case, we still have affordability. Alexis, Lorraine, Lauren, and Myra. And again, if it's kind of falls out of focus, if it's not, these feel more actionable, that also totally works.
This is Lauren. I mean, I think it's just hard for me to commit to extra work between now and the end of the year, but I'd like to keep it on my radar so that if the opportunity presents itself and I can make it work.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as Lauren, and I guess what I understood was that there would be like people would meet if they were able to or be able to provide input in writing or something like that to bring back to the pub. But I am in the same boat as Lauren. I'm really interested in both the affordability and the One Water implementation, but I can't commit to like a lead sort of
Beautiful.
role.
I think that the exercise, we're now 11 minutes over. We're gonna call it there. Totally heard too, and it's a good start. Just to summarize, Brooke and myself will connect in the next month and a half on deferred maintenance and unified asset management, as well as some of the city budget considerations. Jenny and Lorraine, if you have time and capacity, connect to start thinking about how we can approach and present One Water, and then we can just connect independently and then bring it back to the full pub to build some consensus around what a work session would look like. Cool. All right. We're going to move past that. Thanks so much all for the time and willingness to engage. And we open ourselves up to solid waste rate and review. So this topic was brought to PUB by the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability. PUB talked about it at our October 16th meeting, and PUB staff have since had conversation with BPS. A memo from BPS was sent to PUB in read ahead. The goals of today's conversations are to provide a brief highlights of request, discussion, and feedback from PUB members, which includes interest and capacity, and to identify next steps. And yeah, do you want to give any kind of a framing or a high level overview, Amy?
Yeah, so I will just touch very briefly on the information that we shared with you all, and then just want to open the floor for some discussion and so to dive a little deeper into some of the initial feedback that you shared. And so so the key highlights are that Bureau of Planning Sustainability, the memo that you received, made it clear that they're trying to identify an advisory body to engage in substantive discussion about waste collection services, policies, rates, and in an ongoing basis. So they were asking whether the utility board was potentially a good fit and whether there was interest in capacity. So they were, before going any further, wanted to consider pub's capacity and interest. So that is the point that we're at right now. So historically, before the pub existed, when it was the Portland Utility Review Board, the solid waste rates was considered by the PURB previously. And then when the city did its full Blue Ribbon Commission and review of the rate making review and desire for oversight, that changed, and there was an intention behind the utility board focusing on water, sewer, stormwater at the time, and ensuring that there was adequate oversight of the utility rates. So that changed then in 2014, 2015, when PUB was created. And then during that time, since then, it was primarily reviewed by, I believe, the Planning and Sustainability Commission, I think they were. So they now have so that I think continued until 2022, I believe, if I remember correctly. And then since then, they have been shifting some of the priorities of, their internal boards, and also trying to figure out what the right fit is based on expertise and the types of things that they identified as potentially needing the public feedback on. There is not currently a specific code requirement to have an advisory board around the waste rates, but they see the value in ensuring that there's public input to that process. So that is what they're trying to achieve. So with the new Sustainability and Climate Commission, is that what it is? The SCC. Their focus is really on the climate action plan. And so they are, as they're developing that, Sustainability and Climate Commission, that is going to be their focus in the coming years. And so they had concern about the limited capacity and expertise on that commission for this specific work. The types of work that were included is financial and service decisions in the waste collection system. So that includes annual reviews of the residential side of things, which includes kind of performance and priority setting in fall, November, December, maybe feedback on process and timeline, and then March and April is where draft rates are reviewed. The other areas are on the franchise fees, at which those are done under franchise agreements that are renewed or put out every 5 years. So the next opportunity to really have impact on any of those would be in 2028, and for that next round of franchise agreements. And then commercial tonnage fees would have potential to be reviewed as needed or annually. So what this looks like as far as meetings and impacts, I mean, the more time-intensive pieces obviously would be just the annual rate reviews, making sure that people are up to speed about what the services are, and what information is being considered, so that by the time it gets to the draft rates, that it's a pretty straightforward review. And then there's also other major projects, and they had some examples of those in the document that we sent to you on the implementation of the Recycling Modernization Act, commercial system reviews, space for waste, any items where they see the value of getting some public feedback. They'd like to have an advisory board that they could engage and have an ongoing relationship with to get that feedback. So from just the feedback that we've received so far, we've heard some concerns from you all, and as staff, recognizing the challenges that are ahead with the major changes underway. We have some general capacity concerns, but we really want to hear directly from all of you what the level of interest is, general feedback on the proposal that you received, capacity for the potential for this work, so that we can give feedback back to the planning and sustainability folks. And I'm not 100% sure. I believe that the manager, Eben, is in the room and available if there's any specific questions. But otherwise, we can just open the floor and see where the conversation goes.
Hi, Amy. Yes, I am here, just confirming.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, Jenny, and then.
Yeah, Jenny O'Connor, voting member. And I've voiced my concern when I first saw this. We can hardly get through our agendas as it is. And all the things that we're looking at, I don't feel like we have the capacity to do this. This is a complicated ask here. There's a lot of things involved, and we're having a hard time just keeping up with the things that, all the components regarding the water and the BES. So that's my general comment. Thanks.
Thank you, Jenny. Kyle Chipman, voting member. That's at a gut level, it is a question of capacity as well. Although I do want to flag that all of the rationale in the actual proposal, why it's a good fit for Pub, it makes sense, and it really feels like a genuine need. But for that same reason, it's both capacity as board members and the administrative capacity of the staff supporting. It's a lot. But the end, I'm personally interested, but we're stretching.
Lorraine, and then Lauren.
Thanks, Lorraine Wilson, voting member. It's a very interesting topic. I am all about learning more about the city, especially where it impacts community, and it means imposing cost on community. So my question is, because what my concern is, in my interest, is the role that the pub will play. In taking on this role, because a lot of bureaus come to community and say, hey, we want you to be part of this and to provide input, and then sometimes it ends up being just a rubber stamp. And I'm talking from experience, because I did a whole paper on back and the different backs at the city and what their roles were. So my concern would be that, and the reason why I'm raising that concern is because how would the information be provided to Pub so that it's digestible and that we are able to make informed input into what is being asked for, and not just rubber stamping what it is the Bureau wants to do, because I don't know if that particular Bureau understands. We are intense and we are not a rubber stamp board. So I just wanted to put that out there, and I don't know if someone could answer a little bit more about that.
Amy, would it be appropriate for me to respond?
Yeah,
or would you prefer not?
if you want to respond, and I can share based on what we talked about, but it might be best to hear directly from you.
Okay. Well, first of all, hi everybody. Thank you for considering this. And Amy and Jonalyn asked if I could be here just in case there were questions. My name is Eben Polk, and I am the division manager in BPS for the Waste and Recycling Group. Lorraine, your question is a great one. We were told, so Amy and Jonalyn told us very clearly when we first raised this question that the pub is not interested in being a rubber stamp, and to that I said, great, I don't want that either. We're looking for a place where we can have meaningful discussions that fit whatever capacity need pub has available, and would be committed to providing information that's digestible. We do that when we have had advisory body experiences. We've brought information forward to to the members of those advisory boards in ways that I think are pretty digestible. And to be very specific about the rubber stamp question, we have a rate review process that is somewhat prescriptive, and so in order to have discussions that are substantive, we would probably invite pub membership to talk with us about the assumptions that are behind the system, which the assumptions that we make going into the rate review process, because that's much more substantive. And that would be a way to address the desire to not just be a rubber stamp. So yes, I was excited when I heard that would be the general intent of working with the pub.
Thank you, Eben.
Thank you, Lauren, and then
thanks. And thanks, Evan, for being here. This is Lauren Rosencrans, voting member. I'm just echoing what has already been said. I 100% see the overlap. I see the need. The proposal looks reasonable and like something we could handle outside of the capacity issue. And I wonder if it would be kind of rolled in a way, but that might end up taking away, I think if we were to take that on, it would take away some focus from BES and the Water Bureau. It could also just be bad timing because of the One Water initiatives. Yeah, it's a complicated answer because I want to scream yes, but also I'm like, when would we, So yeah, definitely the interest is there. I just, again, have similar concerns as everybody about capacity. I think Kyle had his hand up.
Yeah, I'll be brief to yield the floor to Alexis, Kyle Chipman, voting member. It's doubling down on Lauren's observations, which are the direct overlap and the nature of the expectations, and also the fact that the delineation of responsibilities was so clean and like, yes, of course, this is a need. And one other thought that I had was the people who submit candidacy and the review process has been historically geared towards service of PWB and BES. So subject matter experts that can not just give community lens, but also the weight of technical expertise to give real substantive response. I don't feel like we may be, and I may be overlooking, but that might be an immediate challenge. The other brief point is in the timeline laying out late summer, early fall. I feel the same way about the pull towards the pull towards the overlap, and maybe once we get past budget and these next couple of months, there could be a reassessment of capacity to start to integrate some of these points. Thank you. Thank you. I yield the floor to Alexis.
Yeah, thanks, everyone, and thanks, Evan, for being here. It's helpful to hear your kind of framing and interest in what you all are looking for, as well. And I mean, I don't know if I have too much more to add. I'll echo what everyone had said, plus one, to seeing the overlap. It does feel like a good fit. And I guess I'm wondering about some kind of like creative solutions or thinking about to help if this is something that the pub would want to formally adopt, right? Like I'm about to say next year, but I mean like maybe next fiscal year as part of our work plan. But what in the meantime might be some like creative solutions for the pub to be able to start to engage on this issue, acknowledging our limited capacity. And so like to that end, considering whatever the advisory board is, the other one in here that there's, sorry, so many acronyms, the SCC. And pub, like, is there a, I don't know, like a once a bi-month, like a bi-monthly like kind of partnership where we could be starting to provide the sort of input that you need or readings that we can do to provide input in a more kind of like targeted or a special meeting every other month or so. I'm just like throwing out random, not fully formed ideas, but hearing interest, but concern about capacity. And then I think Kyle's point on kind of like expertise on the board is an important consideration as well, but wondering if there's like a stopgap solution here. Yeah, I'll stop there, but maybe that's something for like Evan. I would be curious kind of like what some solutions might be after kind of listening to some of the concerns here.
Thank you, Alexis. Lorraine.
Thanks, Amy. Thanks, Alexis, for saying that. As you were about to speak, I was thinking, could this start off like a subcommittee that we have a few pub members be part of this, and then we come. I said we. Did I say we? And then that subcommittee come back and provide feedback to the full pub member, and then we get consensus there or something like that. That's what I was thinking, because I would love to know about recycling, because I pay a lot of money for recycling right now. And I am truly interested in learning more about this aspect of the city that imposes rates on residents. So that's what I was thinking, that probably we could start off with that, tipping our toes into the water. Thanks.
Okay, I'm conscious of time that we are at actually 5 o'clock. And so I have heard clear concern about capacity and at the same time interest and recognition of some potential areas of alignment. So as far as next steps, I can connect with Eben and other staff internally and just make sure that we've documented kind of the feedback that we have so far, and do a little bit more talking about interim or long-term plans, and what those might look like. So in recognition of we don't have time to kind of formally determine any next steps, I think I'll wrap it there unless anybody has any final closing thoughts. I do have a couple really quick announcements that I want to make sure that I mention. All right, so seeing nothing right now, I'm gonna, if you'll just bear with me, I'll try to be really fast. There was an announcement about city administrator selection. It still needs to go to council. There is information about the person selected, Raymond Lee. And so we'll share that information with you. Also, the final report came from the Advisory Body Enhancement Project. There's a lot of detail in there. A lot of it we've already discussed and reviewed, but there's a lot more specific recommendations in the final document, but it's like 60 pages. And we just received it this morning, so did not have chance to more thoroughly review it and flag anything. The process as far as next steps, though, is they're taking code changes to the Council Governance Committee on Monday, December 8th. And that is kind of the high level code changes that are required. A lot of the details are likely more in administrative rules and practices and part of their fuller implementation. And so that will still continue to be developed and have some process to it. So we're trying to find out what that's going to look like. But the goal is to have the kind of full stuff developed by summertime so that existing new boards will start using the new rules and code as they're formed, and then existing boards like Pub would align with what that is by next fall. So we will keep you posted as we know more, but did want you to be aware since there is something going to council just next week. I'm not expecting any of you to participate in that, but we will let you know what the highlights are if there's anything meaningful. We'll see the materials when it's posted on the agenda at the end of this week. As Kyle mentioned, leadership team meeting. If there's anything that you want to flag for chairs, please let us know. That's next week. And we also are seeking volunteers for January ARC meeting. So if there's any of the newer folks who are interested, we would love to have you participate. And thank you, Alexis, for volunteering for the next one. I think that is it for announcements. And we will work on the plans for the subsequent meeting at the leadership team meeting. And so we'll be in touch, but likely will be some continued conversation about this budget development stuff and some wrap up from some of the topics that we talked about today on solid waste and budget. So thank you, everybody. I think that's
with that we adjourn. Thanks so much.
Thank you for the extra